Welcome to IT-Conductor and OSIsoft webinar series, Mastering SAP Monitoring without a CCMS or Solution Manager. Today, session 4, we are going to tackle the batch processing service and job monitoring topic. This is a long-running series that we are covering most of the topics that challenges the SAP administrator in monitoring SAP ecosystem and environment. So, a background on IT-Conductor and OSIsoft. IT-Conductor and OSIsoft have been in the SAP business for more than 20 years, and we have been specialized in IT system administration and monitoring for the last 16 years with long-standing partnership and innovations in the SAP System Management. For the OSIsoft, it's an on-prem solution that uses the Microsoft System Center SCOM platform for automation of the monitoring. Using our management pack, you're able to do on-prem monitoring of the SAP BusinessObjects, HANA, ASE, and many other SAP components. The in-cloud platform IT-Conductor is a simplified version of subscription-based from the cloud, flexible deployment without installation of software. Via subscription, you're able to agentlessly monitor and manage, automate the IT automation platform from the cloud. Background on batch processing. Well, batch processing has been around for a long time, and as far as the SAP is concerned, back in the R2 days, all the way to now, we have various platforms in the Netweaver, some new products, BusinessObjects, platforms as HANA, ASE, they all have background processing involved in the environment. And monitoring and managing these environments, including job exceptions, is still a constant challenge for most of the administrators. And batch environment are considered greatly impact both the availability and performance of the system. It also impacts the performance of online transactions when there's background workload running on the system. So what's available for job monitoring? Part of the challenge is that the health and environment of the processing environment and utilization of capacity. So for the health, you need to be able to tell if your environment is configured and running healthy as far as the job queue is concerned to process the request. From an alerting standpoint, when you have jobs that may abandon or abort due to issues or termination, be able to tell the status as well as the runtime of the job, duration, delay, and any error logs associated to the alerts. At the same time, the performance of jobs are important because, of course, job performance means that when you start something, you expect it to end within an expected time and be able to monitor that progress of that job and be able to report on the details of individual jobs. It could be by user groups, etc. So the performance is an important part of job monitoring. For workload management, of course, as I mentioned previously, we have a topic last week regarding job. Workload management is part of the overall system workload. It is a type of workload, so it is rarely static, and because it is rarely static, you could have workloads that vary greatly in terms of their performance and impact on the system, as well as other shared workload running on the system. So being able to manage the batch environment helps to manage the workload of the overall service. And of course, for trend analysis, there's always the question of how did my job run compared to previous times, previous weeks. If it's a month-end, quarter-end job, you want to be able to do trend analysis as well. And trend analysis, of course, is important because if you are tracking jobs as a service level, you want to be able to notify if this job is somehow running more time into the system as opposed to letting it run and then finding out at the end that there's some issues. So being able to manage workload is very important. So today, what tools are available on the job monitoring? Well, you have the SM37, the job monitoring tool. Of course, this is the standard SAP Netweaver Basis admin all know this, and they sit in front of SAP GUI screen, refreshing just to look at jobs and how they progress. Not very efficient because it's a manual process. In Netweaver CCMS, you have also the ability to use the configuration, which rarely anybody configures, to monitor particular SAP jobs in the background. So we've listed this in the blog that we have in regards to job monitoring. You can look further details on how to configure this in CCMS. And using the RZ20, which is the transaction to look at monitor sets, there are three services as demonstrated with the diagram there. And in drilling down, you have a background service. You're able to look at utilization of the background queues as well as any job aborts. They list the last 10 jobs that have been in the system that it detects as a termination or cancellation of any type. So this is per system. You have to log on to RZ20 for each managed system and take a look at this. So it is nobody ever really does this, because if you end up with multiple systems, you can't really actually sit there and look at this on a regular basis. So those are two existing solutions. The third one, obviously, SAP has Solution Manager, and everybody knows that Job and BI monitoring is available. How do we do that? Well, it's a lengthy setup. First of all, if there is a ability to look at this in more detail, you have, well, a process of setting up, which includes, as you can see here, I'm listing the job monitoring setup in Solution Manager 7.1 SP10. It's about 50 pages long to set up simple job monitoring. So if you have the energy to go through that and use the category to set up, that is an available option to you. But back to how Solution Manager does it. There is no real troubleshooting context, even though you may have jobs that are abort, and you have queues that are reported as here as one of the metrics on the batch jobs. There is no context with that as far as troubleshooting anything, because you would have to pull up multiple different screens, multiple different places to look at the information, as well as the events and metrics here are aggregated information that you don't have the granularity to look at the job itself. If you do want to take a look at the job details, in most cases you have to manage by logging on to the managed system. And each job will become a managed object that you have to drill in and find out in more detail. So that's kind of what's available from the free tools, if you will, the SAP available tools for Netweaver. We have SM37, RZ20, and then Solution Manager. Well, our best-of-breed approach to job monitoring includes two sets of solutions. One is the OSIsoft Management Pack for SAP. This is about an 8-year-old solution. It's mature and it's feature-rich and deploys using Microsoft's System Center platform, which is now widely adopted as one of the framework for monitoring and management from an enterprise standpoint. Within the Management Pack, we have batch processing queue monitoring. We also have the job monitoring that allows you to create filters that match any kind of status, runtime, delay, or duration by users, by groups. So that is a easy way to define jobs. So you can define jobs by just naming them, or by the users, by masking, giving a expression, and the jobs that match are created in System Center. So we'll go into that product more detail during the demo session. Any of those criteria can be used to create a generate alert in System Center and also be subscribed to for downstream notification. With IT-Conductor, from a cloud platform standpoint, we look and take a look at the integration of job monitoring from a subscription-based platform where we manage from the cloud. You're able to connect to end systems. We're able to then subscribe and bring in the CCMS alerts that we talked about earlier. And CCMS already tracks job failures. So instead of sitting in individual systems or looking at individual screens, IT-Conductor can collect from all the systems that are managed and bring them into a central place. Each job alert will become an alert in IT-Conductor that you can subscribe to, be notified of when there is a job failure or service impact of any kind. From a performance analytics standpoint, we can also monitor batch workloads. Again, by simply defining a workload to be monitored by job name, by user, by group, we are able to then extract and provide that information from historical trend analysis. Anytime the job runs in the system, collect the performance information. Of course, all this fits into the overall strategy that IT-Conductor provides a single pane of glass where a managed service has a grid, and we're able to then insert this particular job monitoring into the grid so that the impact analysis can be included in the service management piece. As an example of this is one of the screen print that we've put together to demonstrate a service-oriented batch management and job monitoring approach. So from a single pane of glass, this is one system, and in the grid, we have the ability to bring up job-related monitoring information. So for instance here, we have the job runtime for the DDIC user. So any of these bars can be clicked upon, and for that period of time, the jobs that have ran during that period information is brought up, which can be further drilled in for detail about the job. Secondly, the background utilization, we looked at the batch service monitoring itself. So in this case, you can look at background utilization of the queue that's available processes to handle the batch workload from a dispatcher standpoint. That can also be triggered from a threshold. If you can put in and say, if there is a batch workload that is heavy, I want to know about it because it may impact my system, you simply subscribe and create a threshold override, and then you will be notified. Now, on the same screen here, we also have the batch jobs themselves thresholds. So in the CCMS alert category under the same grid, whenever batch jobs fail, we also detect that as an alert. We put it on a simple to digest graphical format where you can drill in. So you can drill into a particular bar, it will pop up the failed jobs, and from there you can do your diagnostic information. Again, all of this without having to end up on the managed system at all. You're in a central enterprise platform to do service management and analysis from all kinds of job-related concerns, from running the job, performing the job, availability of the job, availability of the queues, and also individual detail about each of the job. So this is an example of a service management from a job perspective within the context of an SAP system with everything else available at your fingertip in terms of health analysis. Okay. So at this point, we will step into the SAP Management Pack, and with the SAP Management Pack, we'll demonstrate how the MP itself monitor and manage batch jobs, and then we'll flip back and we'll look at the IT-Conductor in a live demo. So at this stage, I'll turn over the webinar to David Stavisky, who will demonstrate the SAP Management Pack, and we'll take a look in more detail how that provides the on-premise solution for the platform itself. Okay, David.
Name is David Stavisky, as Lynn already alluded. So I'll demonstrate SAP Management Pack and how it deals with background jobs monitoring in SAP. Okay, first, to make sense out of it, you need to be somewhat familiar with System Center Operations Manager from Microsoft. This is a framework from Microsoft that has pluggable architecture where we can install Management Pack, so-called Management Pack, to introduce different systems management into the framework. And OSIsoft has developed SAP Management Pack already many years ago, but we came out with it in 2009. Since then, it added lots of features, and today is a mature and robust monitoring solution for SAP. So one of the features that it has is job monitoring. So to start with job monitoring, let's talk about the three components of it, right? The one in SAP, at least in CCMS, it generates alerts for every job failure. So this is the easiest way to monitor it. So, and that was the first how we introduced it. So our management pack actually is intelligent. It knows when the CCMS event that we alert that we retrieve belongs to a job, and if it belongs to a job, it will create a job object in SCOM and associate this event with them. This is very useful. Even without configuring anything, you'll get the event associated with it. So let's go into alerts and look at the job failure alerts. And I see one is a background. So that's one way to get in the notification. So the CCMS generates alert and you forward it to appropriate person. Although this is not the ideal way of doing this, because you can only see the job that it failed and only after it failed. What if you want to monitor the job performance? What if you want to know if job runs too long and before it completes, you need to notify and alert a person responsible and take proactive actions? What if you want to analyze historical perspective, from historical perspective, and see how this particular job ran in the past and what was the runtime before and now, compare it, understand if it's improving or getting worse. So for that purpose, in Management Pack has a separate facility that utilizes direct connect to the SAP system. And when it connects, it's able to query all the jobs that you're interested in and retrieve the information. So the configuration is pretty straightforward. You don't need to do anything on SAP side. So if you go to the particular SAP system configuration, we have the jobs tab that allows you to configure multiple criteria. Each criteria, in essence, is a selection for what kind of jobs you want to include in the monitor. In this case, I have two criteria, right? One criteria can include 3 individual criterions. So in this case, I just chosen to use based on user. You can do the job name or the job group. Each of the fields can contain a regular expression. Actually, it is a regular expression, so it's pretty flexible, and you can have multiple. So the any job that is matching one of the criteria will be included in monitoring. So as you can see, I have configured 2 criteria, one for user jobs that belong to user Lin and one user Didic. And that's it. You start it, you can save it, and it start monitoring. And this is what you get. So as you can see here, we have a list of background jobs because the Management Pack has discovered them and started to monitor. For each of the jobs, when they run, of course, because periodically we just check if job ran and we pull the performance counters that represent the status, the duration, the delay, runtime, and everything. And let's open the health view to analyze, to see what we monitor for the job. So as you can see, this is the typical SCUM view. So we monitor the job status, so you can see and get alerted when job fails. So it's kind of duplicate to the CCMS alert that generated. You don't have to enable it, or you don't have to enable alerts. So you can just monitor by the state from here and get alerts generated. We also have several monitors that monitor delay, the job duration, which is completion. Or, when it's completed, we calculate how long it ran. The runtime is referred as in-flight time. So when the job is in process, the runtime increases all the time. So you able to monitor this and say, I have a long running job. I don't know when it's going to end. It might be running for 2 days. But if it runs more than 2 hours, it's already bad. So I need to alert someone. And the combined job runtime plus delay, meaning end-to-end execution from submission to completion. So these are monitored for each of them. And you can, of course, override, set the proper threshold for a particular job or for group of jobs. You can create a group that's a standard SCUM facility and populate it with certain jobs, either dynamically based on the selection criteria or manually. And then you can put the overrides for the thresholds for this particular group of jobs. So it is really powerful job monitoring solution when you combine the SAP, our SAP Management Pack and SCUM all together. They provide pretty appealing functionality. So you can also chart the jobs historical performance. So as you can see, these are the performance counters we retrieved, and it doesn't run very often, sounds like. So we have to look at over a longer period of time to see. So let me select a maximum, because some of the jobs run just very few times a day. Yeah, okay. So this is, so you can see that you have the job performance right in your front of fingertips. Back to you.
Thank you. Let me take over. So we just look at the SAP Management Pack from the OSIsoft for my System Center. Here we do have the next level of management from IT-Conductor. So I will take a look here live. So this is the IT-Conductor, and there's a dashboard that one of many dashboards. This happens to be a basis dashboard that one of our users would have access to, that comprise of your system, and here's an alert panel here, obviously. From a high level point of view, you can also look at batch jobs. You can see failed batch job CCMS alerts here in the operational alerts. So it's a good way to get a glimpse, not only one system. As I said, this is the enterprise, so you are looking at the entire landscape and be able to look at all of the jobs across the board. So the alert panel lists individual job failures, and if there is a job failure that happens to fail, very frequently, we don't flood it, and you can choose to deduplicate that. So you can see here some jobs have failed multiple times from this particular system, and you can see the repeat count and the time that they last failed. And for each of these jobs, you can also drill in. So there are 2 occurrences here, so you can create dig in and get the related alerts for that particular job. So you can see here the list of jobs that have failed with those matching job names or criteria. So again, this is a high-level dashboard, so we'll go into a little bit more detail. Now, before I go further, I would want to take a look at, as before we were saying about how SAP is currently managing jobs. Again, as an overview, you can see if you were to sit at each system and looking at job overview, you could be overwhelmed with the number of jobs just in one system, let's say. And looking at the context, you have to refresh to get information, and then you have to go to multiple systems to get various different perspectives. If a job ran here and then push some data over there, you'd have to be bouncing around, and it's manual, right? So this is SM37 job overview from SAP. The other way we talked about was the job monitoring from perspective of a AZ20, which is CCMS platform. Again, you have the monitoring tree here, which allows you to take a look at under background, and you have utilization, various different metrics that we also collect, and you have the aborted job, right? In SAP, this aborted job really, if you drill into it, gives you a list of the different jobs that aborted over the last period of time, right? So again, this is on a single machine, on a single system. You would have to do this and set it up and then monitor it from this perspective. So it's kind of a clumsy way to do it. And then the other way is through Solution Manager. Obviously, in Solution Manager, you would have to, first of all, configure technical monitoring. So this is an example of a system where we came in. So again, Solution Manager doesn't really give you overall all the systems. You have to go into each individual system. And then once you're in there, you look in exceptions. For instance, under exceptions, you have batch jobs, for instance, under here. It lists the queue, number of job run, number of job cancel. And again, this is aggregated data. It's basically metric data. To get into individual jobs, you would have to configure, as I demonstrated before, SOLMAN, 50-page long to configure job and BI monitoring and technical monitoring. Then you'll be able to get into a little bit more detail of how the jobs show up in the Solution Manager. And again, it's a single system. You still don't have the ability to cross-correlate or put different things on the chart so that you can figure out what happened during that time. So let's go over to IT-Conductor again after we took a glimpse of what's available. Here, we can take a look at one of our dashboard, and I have one here ready. This dashboard here shows one particular ECC system, LTN. In the service grid here, we have various different containers that provide information and impact analysis for this particular service, right, ECC. And the first thing we have is the job runtime. Again, this is utilization of the job queue and how long each of these jobs ran. So we can easily create a chart that shows intervals where the jobs ran. And obviously you can drill in here. We won't do that for now, but I just want to bring up a few things to show you. Again, one of the slides that we had, this is actually live platform, but you can see here when there was some spike in the performance of the jobs previously, you can see that some of these jobs tracked by DD spiked up in response time, and it actually is correlated to the background utilization. So it looks like the queue spiked, meaning there was extra workload put on the batch processing engine. We can also see maybe potential impact, for instance, at the maybe for dialogue users who might also share this particular platform, right, at the same time. So you can look at, for instance, the dialogue utilization. Right now it's only 4%, but you can see here during that time, see dialogues also went up. And typically that means that the workload on the system has increased, and the time it takes to process the request from each user is increased because the system is more busy, right? Again, on here you can take a look at, for instance, from a alert standpoint. These are events. So batch jobs threshold here correlates to what we saw on the alert panel. So these batch jobs failure are important because each time they pop up here, you can put a threshold and have it sent if you want as an SLA, where it will highlight up red, for instance, or yellow, and it will increase the impact for the service. So that's kind of one of the other way to do that. And in here, you are able to then drill in further and even get details. So how does that impact maybe overall response time? So you can see during the spike in background processing, you also have a spike in the SD user. So for this particular service level, these online dialogue users are being impacted by batch jobs. And that's kind of the power here. In a single pane of glass, you're able to align up and take a look why particular users are experiencing poor performance or availability because of this batch workload here going on the back end. So let's say that we're interested in this, we can drill into the job itself. And here you see the record of the job failure. Now in SAP, if a job failed, you may not actually have any performance information about the job because it never completed, so there's no statistics about the job. But in IT-Conductor, since we track the job failure, we can see that this is the detailed information. It was terminated. This is the unique ID that matches the job ID inside of SAP. Okay, so you can correlate when you do that information, and you see the time that the job failed, right? This is not when the job ran, but this is the job failed because we found that alert. In SAP, you would never have a statistic record for that job that ran, right? So in essence, what we're doing here, we'll be able to find job failures and correlate them back to what potentially happened in the system. Because if you are able to look at the runtime of jobs during that time, again, you can go in here and say, I have some failures around that time, potentially show me what was running on the system, what might have caused this. And again, with job runtime, you can do this. So you can go in here and you see there were 2 jobs that made up during that period of time that ran along that other job, right? So again, this is important information because you're able to do more diligence in finding out the root cause of your problem. How do we do this? It's actually quite easy. We can configure many job monitoring by, again, user, by groups, by job name. And the way to do that is, in fact, it can show here we have menu that are context sensitive for all of our objects in IT-Conductor. You can look at, let's say, monitor, which shows us the definition of how this job ran, and we here on the tab define to look for all jobs that run by user DDIC. All right, and we'll collect information, what attributes we want to look at, how long the job ran, etc. So it's a fairly simple process to set up and monitor jobs. It's not going to be 50 pages long. It's more of a template that we already have, and we'll basically configure that for you as a service. So what we've analyzed here is job monitoring from a batch processing engine point of view. We also have the job alerts itself that is time series correlated, so that you can look at it when it happened along with everything else. So for instance, if you want to see alerts that were happening on the system versus the batch jobs that fail, and see if they correlate. This is a simple way to do that right here, because you have regular CCMS alerts, you have batch jobs alert, and all dumps if you want to do that. So again, this is a very powerful engine. The other way that you can do is, if you have no idea of what the cause is, to go in here and look at the health of the service. So this is another way to manage the batch service, right? Batch does not live by itself, it lives along other workload. So in here we can do a drill down of the service details, for instance. What this is doing right now is running live analytics on the data that was collected. It's provided us with a tree and allows us to be able to drill down and say, hey, my job runtime along with my service, okay, and then also look at information about, as I said before, other users that way might have been impacted by this particular job. All right, we got some red alerts up there. We take a look at app servers, and we can see what else were on the system. So maybe perhaps at that time, oh, look at this. So one of the program hit ratio really dropped, right? Maybe this job was doing something, maybe it was patching, maybe it was generating objects that dropped, and it also caused the batch job utilization, as we looked before, increase, and users utilization also increase, and look at that, response time also increase. So again, this is the way to do a diagnostic of root cause, automated through our health check of IT-Conductor. And again, not only metric based, but alert based on the single screen. Fail batch jobs, if you want to see when they failed, you simply click here and we'll show that on the same chart, right? So that is the power of IT-Conductor as a simple platform without the dependency on a solution manager, a simple subscription, create templates from best practices, and start monitoring right away. And so I want to flip back here and visit where we had the demo. We'll take a look at this already. Where let's visit what other sessions we have available. We have a deeper dive session coming up on the 25th, looking at business objects, and then June 1st, continuing on the series, we'll take a look at SLT, which is SAP Landscape Transformation product. That's for replication, keeping sync of data across business systems landscape. And as part of that, also looking at the RFC connection monitoring, which is part and parcel of SLT. So many more topics coming along the way. Please subscribe and register for one of our events, and we'll see you online. If you want to take a deep dive on the product, I would suggest going on and taking a trial run of our platform. Thank you.